Welcome to the Lead Pedal Podcast with your host Bruce Outridge, where he talks all things trucking. Now let's get rolling.
Whoa, what's going on? Is it all about fuel today? It is all about fuel today, my friends. We're going to be talking with Robin Zhu. Robin's with Bison Transport, manages all of the fuel for the whole fleet, knows a thing or two about pricing, and he's going to be talking with us and offering some tips on how owner-operators can get the best out of their fuel program and how you can get the best out of your fuel program if you want to go over to Bison. Did you know that Bison's got a special going on right now? They're looking for owner-operators, specifically teams and singles, but they've got a $3,000 sign-on bonus for established owner-operator teams. If you're a husband and wife team, you know, brother and a mother and a father and you know how it goes. If you've got family or good friends that you run team with already, they are really interested in talking with you. They can get you on over there. They're looking to, that $3,000 sign-on bonus is going on until March 1st, 2026. So you want to check it out. They've got multiple schedules available, so you can, and that's how Bison picks their runs. They have you choose the run that you're going for, so you kind of know what you're doing, which is what a lot of drivers are looking for because they like that, work-life balance. So that's what they're checking out. Go check out bisondriving.com to learn about all the opportunities available. They've got some great stuff going on. They've been a successful company for over 55 years, so you know they know a thing or two about doing things right. And just to support what I just said to you, we're going to be talking with Robin Zhu of Bison about some of the other benefits you can get as being an owner-operator with Bison. So we're going to be talking to him today about how a fleet fuel program can help you as an owner-operator, some of the things to look for in pricing, some of the ways that you can maybe decide where to run or how to run so that you're getting maximized out of your fuel. We got lots of stuff coming up with Robin, so join us and we will get on with the show. Here we go.
By far my favorite station.
You're the best. Oh, yeah.
I love you guys.
All right, everybody on the line, I've got Robin Zhu with Bison Transport. How are we doing today, Robin?
Doing pretty good. How are you, Bruce?
Good. Couple of years since you've been on the show. Tell us what you do now. Are you still? We're going to talk fuel today, but what's your role at Bison? What do you do on a daily basis?
Yeah, so I'm the director for corporate service here at Bison. So yeah, still look after our fuel program, diesel procurement, our licensing compliance as well. But I also look after our, we call it the carrier fuel program, what we call Bison Plus, and also some sustainability initiatives. But yeah, like fuel, fuel itself is still a huge portion, of my job.
Right. Has it gotten any easier? I mean, before I was talking with you, I don't think there was any tariff talk or any of that stuff going on. I'm not getting political on the show today, but has that made things difficult or different for your job as far as getting fuel contracts and stuff?
Yeah, I'll say, there's no direct impact per se,
Right.
So yeah, we still work with the same suppliers we used to work with. So that part hasn't really changed. I think there's likely some indirect impact on call it supply chain, right? Where fuel is being sourced, where things are being made and all kind of things, and that will indirectly affect fuel price as well.
Okay.
Not going to the specifics, but yeah, if you look at the regional disparities in fuel price in certain regions before and after, yeah, there are some differences. But that's just something we have to work through. So.
Yeah, it's part of the program, right? I do have a question for you because I can trust your answer. There's not many people I trust, Robin, but I trust your answer. So when fuel is it's more expensive in the winter, right? Or which was the more expensive fuel? Is it the summer grade or the winter grade? I keep getting confused on that.
So if everything else is equal, winter will be more expensive, and especially because there's more call it the antifreeze additives components in there, right? So fun fact. By regulation, right, we need to have certain amount of biodiesel blend in the diesel in a whole year. But as you know, biodiesel freeze up pretty
Yeah.
gel up easily in cold temperature. So in the winter time, there's less of that, and we need to make sure diesel is treated properly so it doesn't gel up, right? So with that in mind, yeah, like every year, if you look at called November-ish, diesel price will usually go up. And when it goes to spring, diesel price will come down. That's when it switch off the winter diesel.
Right. And is it still kind of like a bio product of the regular gas, like your gas that you put in your car? Diesel is kind of a byproduct, like it's kind of made after that, is it? Or I got that wrong?
So, so people call it when you crack a barrel of oil,
Yeah.
right? You get both, so diesel and gas, and depends on what kind of crude you crack. You get different kind of percentage and things like that. Now, no, I'm not expert in the refinery piece, but that's my understanding. Yeah, you get both,
Right.
when you crack a barrel.
Okay, okay. No, I just wonder. I've been hearing stuff for my whole career, and
Yeah.
the politicians come on and they go, "Oh, fuel's going up because of this." And I go, "Wait a minute, I thought that was supposed to happen like 2 months ago or whatever." So anyway, let's get away from that. I was just curious with your opinion because I know that's your expert. You are an expert in fleet fuel programs, for corporate for Bison. So if you have a fleet fuel program, that means you're buying fuel for the whole fleet. Do you buy for everything from mechanics? Or are you only working with the drivers, or how does that work? Give us the kind of the
So
overview.
yeah, so I would say majority, if not all of you we purchase, right, are used to power our either trucks or our refuel heater units, right? So not we have a very small percentages for our shunt trucks, right, in yard work and maybe some generators and stuff like that. But most of those are used to power our equipment to move freight. Yeah, and
Okay,
we
very cool.
Yeah, and we buy that, we have an established network, of course. So there's trusted partners we work with, and there's other suppliers we work with as well. But yeah, we fuel procurement sounds easy, but sometimes gets a little bit. I mean, it's interesting, but sometimes it does get a little bit complicated.
We often think of the fuel companies, the Essos and Sonogo and whoever the fuel company is. I don't even remember all the names. They keep changing. But is that who you're dealing with primarily, or are you dealing with like the truck stop chains? How would you be buying fuel, or working with what kind of give us an idea of the partners that you would deal with? Would you go to a fuel chain, a truck stop chain, or would you be dealing with the refinery guys and wherever their fuel sold is the same for you? How does that work from a fuel program?
So for us, it will be the truck stop chains because that's
Okay.
where again, when our driver on the road, they go to truck stops, right? Understanding some other business, they might buy differently because they have more box set up in yard and things like that. So, and then there's other third-party contractors out there. But for us, our program, our vendors and networks are with the truck stop chains directly.
Okay. Okay. So then what does the drivers have input on that? Like, let's say you buy, if you buy the fuel based on price, that may not be the nicest truck stop for it. So that, do you get input from the driver saying, "Hey, this is the chain we use," or "This is the chain we," or are you buying it based on, "Hey, I know some companies that have bought fuel based on where they want their drivers to run. They're going to California. We would prefer you to take this route in the winter, so we're kind of moving your fuel that way." Does that input it at all, or?
Absolutely. Like driver experience is a huge factor, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's not us buying the fuel, it's the drivers
Right.
buying the fuel, right? And so there's something we have to balance, right? One is the driver experience, and the other part is of course the cost, right? So it's always and that's the interesting part. We have to balance that, and how do we see how do we get the most out of those arrangements, right? For both the driver as other personal experience, because there are some truck stops have better amenities and everything than others, but also we need to stay competitive in the market, right? Especially in today's market, we need to be cost competitive so we can get more freight. At the end of the day, drivers also need freight. So, and that is something we have to balance. But yeah, at the end of the day, yeah, for sure, we get drivers feedback all the time, just on what truck stop is better and why they like this one better, why, or they don't like that one because the shower is horrible, right?
Right.
We get those feedbacks, and how we direct drivers also is we have the in-house program we built called we call field advice. So basically, every time drivers start a trip from A to B, they'll get a list of fuel stops on the way, and we know there are some other called program or softwares out there that will say, driver, you have to go to this truck stop and buy 100 liters, then go to truck stop B, buy 50 liters, right? They're very, very directive and tells you exactly what to do. We took a different approach when we designed the program. We are more like, here's all the fuel stops on your way, and we tell you the amenities they have, we tell you how much parking spot they have, and what's the price, and you make the decision. I will tell you which one we prefer you to go. And then at the end of the day, we still measure what driver did versus what we like. We have a called a target, optimum, and how far off they are. Because at the end of the day, if drivers are gonna turn left, it's the best, cheapest location on the road, but it's packed.
Yeah.
Turn right, it's slightly more expensive, but it's empty. And we're okay with driver going to the right. But if the cost is huge, cost difference is huge, it may be a different story. But overall, we have to look at the overall efficiency, right? Not just fuel alone or just driver alone.
Do you move the drivers around in my day of trucking? And this is before all the computer stuff. They used to tell us because they were trying to work with their fuel tax. So they would say, "Hey, we're low on Michigan fuel this year, month, or whatever." And they'd say, "Everybody fuel in Michigan this month," and then the next month it would be Indiana. Everybody fuel Indiana. Do they still do that kind of stuff, or does that not matter as much with the fuel program?
That is a fantastic question because most people are saying in the industry they don't quite understand, and many people just chase the pump price. But the fuel tax is a huge piece in there. Now we don't really chase the hey which fuel tax is better. We just look at the fuel tax pre is IFTA. We look at the pre-IFTA price, right?
Right.
Because again, IFTA how it works we can talk about it all day long, but IFTA at the end of the day is a pass through, right? Based on where you run. If you run the miles, you're gonna in that state you have to pay the tax. That part doesn't change. So what we have to look at is a pre-IFTA price in Canadian dollars in the same currency, right? And that's what we present to drivers. If it's US, we'll convert to Canadian dollars. We'll take out IFTA and GST and all kind of stuff from there. So it's a fair fuel decision-making price. But
Right.
it is a great question.
Right. Yeah, that's something. The until you're at that side of it, most drivers don't understand the fuel tax program. But once I was lucky with I work for companies where they kind of made us work with it, so that's how I got into it. We're talking a lot about owner operators right now. Do they use your fuel program because they can kind of buy anywhere? Are you finding that they're using your program on a regular basis?
Yeah, I would say our own operators get our fuel card, so they get
Okay.
our company pricing, which I would say is very competitive compared to what they can get
Right.
themselves. But yeah, so we do have, I would say, all owner operators using our fuel cards
Okay.
and taking
Okay.
advantage of the programs.
Right. And like you just said, there's probably a giant savings that they would see on their savings. Has anybody done the numbers? Do you have a rough percentage of how much someone might save going through? Because I don't know if everybody realizes that, some do because of the fuel's a big cost, but it's like maintenance. People will go where they like to go, and that's not necessarily the most beneficial, right? So what would be the savings between a regular prices and your fuel program? Just a rough idea, if you can kind of say a percentage, if you're allowed. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not a percentage, and again, not going into too much technical details.
Yeah.
So what we buy is we call it rack, which is really just wholesale index, and then there is the retail. So if you look at the retail pump price, it doesn't change every day,
Right.
right? But the wholesale price that changes every single day. So so the gap between retail and the wholesale, as a result of that, also changes every single day, right? But we can say as a ballpark number, like we can say like 20 to 40 cents per liter, probably in Canada. And in the US, we're talking about 20 to even $1, depends on where you go. So there are some very significant difference in there. Again, depends on the time, depends on location, everything. But buying fuel out of their paying out of pocket versus using a fleet fuel card, especially backed by a larger fleet such as Bison, for sure comes with benefits.
That's great. What speaking of benefits, what is there anything above just saving on fuel, which is it was enough of a benefit as it is, but what are there any other benefits to using the program? What tell us what's it also involved? Does that include things like showers and all that kind of stuff? I don't know. I've been out of that for a while now, so I'm kind of not familiar with what things are costing anymore as far as that goes. But
Yeah, the showers, those driver experience programs, a lot of that actually comes with the network already. So for example, you know, I would say most of the truck stop chains, they have shower programs, right? Especially in the US, where you can see those more driver friendly network and everything. And those places will say if you buy a certain amount of gallons, you get free shower, right? And you get points. And once you earn enough points or buy enough gallons from that truck stop chain, you get free shower for the rest of the month and things like that. So that part usually already comes with the reward card program if they sign up, if they have one. But what we do as a business, what we trying to focus on is say how do we make you owner operator your business more successful, right? As business partners. Now, helping you reduce fuel costs is one thing, but to us, the biggest benefits of our program comes to how do we help you stabilize your fuel cost.
okay. So
As you know,
what is a tip for that? Waiting for that. Give us one tip. Give us one. I know there's some people who are not on Bison listening, but that's okay. That we'll help them out too. Just give us a rough tip if you have something of how, because I was just going to ask you if there's strategy to buying fuel that you would recommend for people. So maybe answer that question.
yeah, and that comes down to not really just buy fuel. Buy fuel will help you get cheaper fuel, right? That help you reduce fuel costs. But on the other side is how do you get a fuel surcharge, a fuel subsidy, or fuel offset program that pay you, that compensate you for part of a fuel cost so we can stabilize it. So for example, at Bison, we offer our owner operators, we call fuel offset program, right? Fuel surcharge in essentially. So what we say is in your base rate, right, in what we pay you, there's a portion of that is already for fuel. And long story short, a million years ago when fuel price was super, super low, nobody get fuel surcharge, right? Everything's in the base rate and that covers your fuel. And then oil price skyrocketed and everybody's like, well, that doesn't work anymore. And that was when the fuel surcharge concept was introduced to cover all those extra portion, right? And to protect carriers or owner operators in this case from the fluctuating fuel prices. So we do the same for our owner operators. We say, here's what's in your base rate, and we're gonna use we have some called index. We use basically by region average price in that region. Here's estimated mile per gallon. So in theory, your net fuel cost per mile in the region should be X, right? And we're gonna pay you for that. So the idea is to say you may have spent so much, but we will protect you to stabilize your fuel cost to this level, right, throughout the year. So, and I would say it's done a pretty good job. Like our owner operators, on average, highway owner operators, their net fuel cost stays around 26 cents per mile. And I think that's very important because their base rate doesn't really change every single day, right? Their fuel cost changes every single day. So if you don't have some kind of protection from a fuel surcharge or fuel offset program, that just means your profitability changes every single day. Some days you may even lose money,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's just not healthy for a business. So what we do as a priority for a fuel program is to help owner operators stabilize their fuel costs. Now, on top of that, they have ways to reduce fuel costs by buying cheaper fuel, utilizing our free fuel advice program, and they can drive better, right? There's all sort of things they can do to reduce that, but the end goal is still to stabilize your fuel cost, if that makes sense.
No, that's great information, and it's I think we often look at, I know when I was a driver, I would kind of look at the week. Here's what here's what I want to accomplish this week, whether it be, 3,000 miles, whatever. And, you just you're working with the time and the loads, but you're not, for an owner operator, you need to think about that business side as well. And I think being able to kind of know where your trips are going and know your plan for the month, you can really stabilize that fuel and decide how much you need to buy or not buy. Because a lot of us are just, all right, the needle says we're almost empty, we're buying. Or if we're smart enough in the wintertime, we say, okay, let's make sure we're rocking off the top half of the tank so we're not running out of fuel or stuck in the side of the road or something like that. But a lot of us aren't thinking beyond that. So that's great that you have some of that. What are some of the common mistakes you see owner operators making that are not taking advantage of things like your fuel program?
So one thing I would say is owner operators don't use our field advice. So like we're talking about $1,000 to $3,000 easy. If you don't, someone who use this religiously versus someone who do not, like don't look at it at all. The difference we're talking about, a few $1,000s a year, in difference, right? And if you look at Winnipeg versus Fargo as an easy example, right? If you're going to the US cross border, you gotta hit those two spots. And the price between those two locations can be very different and they can switch. Sometimes Fargo is cheaper, sometimes not, right? And by being able to know that, have visibility, and making those decisions strategically really has some impact. So, that is one tip I would say is you just have to put your mind to it, spend some time thinking about do some planning, right? Do some planning where to buy fuel, where to stop and things like that.
Yeah, that planning part, I tell you, the numbers do not lie for some reason. I wish they would sometimes, but they don't. How if someone's, because where you are, there's the Rocky Mountains there, and we have mountains and hills here in Ontario, but not the same. So, how much of a difference, like, would owner operators get paid differently if they're running the mountains? I'm going to assume that takes a lot more fuel than if you're not running the mountains, right? So how does that work? Does trip planning come into that, or does it affect the purchasing of it?
Yeah, for sure. Trip plan comes into that. Fuel price is price, of course, but you gotta understand how, what's your range and everything as well. But our fuel subsidy program or fuel offset program also takes care of that as well because we do that by region, right? So if you're running on a prairie versus running, call it in BC, we use a different mile per gallon assumption, right? So we assuming you're burning more fuel, when you're running in BC versus in Manitoba, for example.
Okay, so that's good to know. So if someone's trying to figure out their price, they can take the base rate, which you mentioned was around 26 cents and then even if they switch to another area, it shouldn't change their base very much because the fuel surcharge is going to take care of that adjustment. Is that, did I get that right?
So I will say if it's an owner operator out there looking to apply jobs at Bison, right, or even do comparisons, at the end of the day, you gotta look at the net, right? What's your net estimate? What's your take home, right? People can pay you super high base rates, but it doesn't give you fuel subsidy or anything else. That there's that. But what I would do when you look at Bison is take all the earnings, right? Base rates and everything. We pay a lot of the premiums and the work-based pay as well. So once you add everything up, when you look at fuel, it just minus 26 cents.
Right.
Right. And because you'll be paying for fuel, but you'll get fuel offset as well. But when you combine those two together, a reasonable estimate is 26 cents.
Wow.
So if you add up everything to be X number minus 26 cents, and that 26 should be your net fuel cost.
Yeah, that's amazing. How much does drivers? I am old, Robin. I am one of these old drivers that love to clutch, love to sticks, and driving and all that. And today there's these beautiful trucks that kind of sail in an automatic mode. How much of a difference do you see this at all? How much of a difference between somebody who's maybe driving standard as opposed to automatic, or a rough driver compared to somebody who's smooth changing gear? Are you able to see that? I don't know if that's something you would see necessarily in your role.
For sure, we have some. Again, there's technology these days,
Yeah.
right? So we get all kind of data from the truck. It will tell us, hey, this driver was was idling, for example, right? And we're not talking about the stop by traffic or things like that. Is idling overnight, not using APUs. So those call it unnecessary idling, if you call it that. And the weather was beautiful outside, right? They were still idling. And then there is too hard on the pedal and things like that. So there's for sure some some difference in there, and depends on where you are. We have our drivers, a lot of those are pretty good, but I would say probably 5% between someone who just like drive or whatever versus someone who actually pays a lot of attention to what they do. There's a huge difference in that. And then when you look at newer trucks versus older trucks, right? And there is, again, depends on how old you're talking about the trucks, but can be another 5 or 6 or even more percent when it comes to fuel economy.
Wow, so there's some big changes, and I had Mike Gomes on the show here, and he's also I guess purchasing based on good fuel economy. I'm sure the two of you must work together quite closely when it comes to ordering
Absolutely.
equipment, right? And this, I'm still assuming that driving slower is better fuel economy. Has that changed? 55 is still kind of our 55 miles an hour, and then as you get up, your percentages go down. Is that still true?
Yeah, so there's a there's a balance as well, right? You can drive slow, of
Yeah.
course, but then it takes you much longer to get to your destination. So there's that, right? We have a speed governor, right, for most of our trucks, company trucks anyway, and that's not just for fuel economy reason, but also for safety reasons. That's there for that. But yeah, if you drive too fast, of course, gonna burn more fuel. But also when it comes to how hard you press the pedal,
Right.
the modern trucks a lot of times it looks at, I guess, in the past, even for me, right, I really believe, hey, if you step all the way to the floor, the truck will speed up and will burn, and will put the fuel into the engine, and you'll switch gear whenever you need to. So there's no fuel waste, period, because it will just the computer will do its thing. And what we have learned recently is the modern trucks actually you could waste fuel if you could pushing way more fuel into the engine than you can produce the power. So there is some components in there when it comes to how do you manage pedal. And we heard from drivers say, "Oh, that's nonsense," but we have OEM statements, right? We have from the manufacturers, like we have all kind of things can verify
Yeah.
that statement. So that is absolutely true. The newer trucks for sure is acts that way. Some people find it like what? But yeah, that is the case. So like one of the things we're also trying to do is just how do we educate our drivers a little bit more on how the new trucks work, so they can be a better driver, right? Know the machine you drive every single day a little bit better.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. It's your office must have a lineup outside of it of owner operators that want to pick your brain to go, how can I save more money, right?
Well, you know what? If that was the case, I would say it would be a really good thing. I like talking to drivers. I would say I learn a lot from them too. Again, like they bring a lot of things they see on the road to us that we just don't know, right? So if they don't tell us, I would say we have much less information or visibility on what's actually going on out there, and even including like what drivers actually experience at truck stops over the road with their equipment and things like that. And we always welcome those feedbacks.
Yeah, well, that's great. And is that a part of something that Bison offers? Because I know, owner operators and are supposed to be kind of independent and on their own, but you encourage people that are on your fleet to come in and talk with you and see here's what it is. How can I make it better? And maybe give them a tip or two.
Absolutely, absolutely. They're business partners of ours,
Yeah.
right? And they can always email us. We have team on the floor as well. They can always come to talk to us, and I say they do very often as well, right? So yeah, it's not an issue for us at all. we
That's
welcome.
great. That's great. Robin, thank you for your time today. Always a wealth of information. Always a pleasure talking with you for sure. I really enjoy it. And I learn a lot. I mean, we can all learn a lot. I tell you, fuel is one of those things that just makes you want to shake your head, especially if you listen to the news when they're raising prices. So
No kidding. Likewise, Bruce. And if I can add one more thing in there, if you don't mind, we are looking to hire more owner operators.
Sure.
You may or may not see that, from the job postings we have on the website. We are looking to hire more of that. And right now, and I just heard that this morning actually, that we are offering a $3,000 sign-on bonus for established team owner operators. So if you and you have a partner, you guys try teams, your owner operators, you can potentially be eligible for the $3,000 sign-on bonus.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. Yeah, I did know you were putting on some owner op. I didn't know you were looking especially for teams, though, but that's good to know. Thank you very much, Robin. I appreciate that very much.
No problem. Thank you, Bruce.
All right, buddy. Oh, I hope you got some great information out of that. Robin is a wealth of knowledge, so I know that you're really going to enjoy that. Hey, before we get too much further, if you're a fleet that's looking to improve for 2026, you're not sure where you stand, getting a safety audit done is the best thing you can do. And Compliance Mentors with a Z is the perfect one to do that. They have a variety of audits they can help you with, let you know exactly where you need to work on for 2026. It's nothing like getting on to a new year and not sure where you're going. Trust me, lots of things are changing. So check out Compliance Mentors with a Z. That's mentorz.com. And you can find out all the information. They've got teams all across Canada, so somebody can be there to help you and get your safety record improved, because that's something we really need to do for 2026. All right, Robin had some great information there. Hopefully you got some really good tips. Again, if you're thinking of making a move, Bison's looking for people. You got $3,000 sign-on bonus there. And if you're an owner operator, happy where you are, that's great. Then maybe go and check out your fuel program and find out exactly where you can maybe get some more benefit out of it. Today's world, it's all about keeping your expenses down and dollars in your pocket. So check that out. Hey, before we go though, let me also tell you about Driver Check. They sponsor our rapid fire trivia on our Quartz and Chrome show. And they've got locations all throughout North America, actually. And if you have questions about drug and alcohol testing or cannabis in the workplace or workplace safety in general, Driver Check is a great place to go. Then just visit drivercheck.ca. They got lots of resources there. They have their Fitness for Duty Summit at the end of the year. Lots of stuff going on with Driver Check. So drivercheck.ca, make sure you tell them that we sent you. All right, my friends, we're going to do a summary for you next time, so make sure you stay with us, subscribe to the podcast. Hey, have you not heard of our Quartz and Chrome show? You want to check that show out. It happens Monday nights. It's live at 7 o'clock, and we interview different people from music, trucking, whatever. We have a featured truck. We have rapid fire trivia. We play some songs in there. Lots of stuff going on. So check us out at Quartz and Chrome, which is on Lead Pedal Radio. You go to leadpedalradio.com to learn all about that. All right, subscribe wherever you are. Make sure you check things out, and we will talk to you later, my friends. Be safe out there and watch those fuel costs. Oh my Lord, they're going to hurt you. Here we go.
This has been another episode of the Lead Pedal Podcast. For more information or to subscribe to the podcast, visit theleadpedalpodcast.com and be sure to follow the podcast on Facebook and Twitter.